Oh, well, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I'm happy to have with me today Dr. Darren Starkey. And I see a lot of things right here, and I think I'm getting ready for a science experiment.
Right.
But I think we're going to find out a lot of information today, a lot of good information for people. Now, you're with Trace Minerals?
Mm-hmm.
Trace Minerals. Now, when I think about trace minerals, when I think about minerals,
Right.
I realize our body has to have them. But do I ever think about a mineral when I'm eating something? No. Did I ever think about it growing up? No. Not unless I was in science class or health class and the teacher talked to me about it. But it's very important. Very important. Minerals are very important to our body. And that's what we want to talk about today, because I didn't realize how important minerals can be. So thank you for being here today.
No, thank you for having us.
Tell me a little bit about yourself leading into what we're going to be talking about.
So I've actually been with Trace Minerals for the past 33 years.
Okay.
And I think that at this moment, at this time, and especially the stress that we've been under as a society, I think there's a need for this knowledge from a health foundation, because if we're not, just like you said, if we're not putting it back in, if we're not emphasizing, chances are we're deficient. And of course, deficiency in our health, especially with these minerals, can lead to dysfunction. And it's not until we're in a crisis that we really start to ask the right questions.
Now, when we talk about minerals,
Yep.
I'm thinking to myself, do I have to read the back of every label on every product? And how do I know that I am not getting enough minerals? I'm getting older. The hair is gray. And at this stage in my life, do I need to know more about minerals?
Oh, great question. So think about this. We lose about 2.5 to 3 cups of body fluid a day.
Okay.
Whether you're an Olympic athlete or a professional couch potato, we lose the same amount of liquid every single day. So through respiration, perspiration, urination, and defecation, not to mention that time of the month and during pregnancy, there's a lot of output of these minerals, right? Because I always ask the same question, Deborah, when's the last time you quit breathing since you left your mother's womb? And we don't. It's a constant steady, but we don't think about it,
No.
right?
No.
But the thing that I always love to educate on is that our bodies can't synthesize these elements, can't manufacture them. They have to be delivered. So in other words, we're only as healthy as our soil is fertile. And going back to that statement, the fruits and vegetables that you eat today, Deborah, don't taste like the same when you were a little girl eating them out of the garden, right?
Sure. And I'm thinking, okay, all the chemicals that people
Yes.
are putting on the products and the things that I'm buying or ingesting, and sometimes without washing them. Think about that.
Great point. But what I would love to do, can I just show this little
Sure.
demonstration?
I've always liked science.
So this is just tap water, okay?
Okay.
And we'll get to that too. So I'm just going to pour just a little bit of this liquid into each one of these cups, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to define what the definition of death is. See, we talk about agelessness right now. We talk about keeping ourselves youthful and,
Sure.
but what about the definition of death? And interesting question though, right? Because we don't
Right.
like talking about
No.
that part of life. But
No.
the very definition of death is not when our heart stops beating. It's when all that electrical impulse in our brain stop.
Okay.
So we're nothing but a very sophisticated machine ran off electrical impulse. And yet, this right here, by the way, is alfalfa, the grand master of all land plants, because of its root system. I can show you documentation given to our, in a government document given back in 1936. This particular doctor by the name of Dr. Charles Northern estimated that 99% of the American population back in 1936 were deficient in these trace minerals due to agricultural farming techniques in that time. Now, Deborah, if that information is true, how deficient are we today? Because he goes on to state that no matter how delicate that deficiency is in our bodies, it will sicken, suffer, or shorten our lives. Now let me show you this. How many times in your life were you told, eat your fruits and vegetables, they're good for you?
Oh, all the time.
All the time, right? And then of course we turn into our parents. We promised ourselves we wouldn't do it, but We then, of course, coach our children, eat your fruits and vegetables. But let me just share this thought with you. I'm going to put this positive, negative charge into the very things that we should be eating, right? So here's a banana. I get an electrical response. How about a pepper? I get an electrical response. How about a potato? I do this
Through the plastic.
I purposely did this, and I'm going to explain why. So there's a potato. I get an electrical response. How about my orange? And we're going to talk,
There we go.
how about our apple a day that kept the doctor away? How many times have you heard that in your life?
Always.
Okay?
Always.
You see the inconsistencies, by the way?
The light coming out on.
On and off.
Yes.
And yet, the question I always ask is, where are these foods grown? And I find it interesting because we purchase by presentation, right? If it looks like, smells like, we'll pick it up and take it. But oftentimes what we're not looking at is where the origin of these fruits are coming from. For instance, a lot of our oranges are coming from South Africa right now.
Yeah.
A lot of our peppers. Interesting, I picked up a yellow organic pepper out of California. A yellow organic pepper. It was grown in where? Not in California, but Israel. Okay?
Yeah.
So these are the places, these are the types of questions that we should be asking ourselves is, where is that soil? I have no problem with these other nations, but at the same time, how long did it take for these different fruits and vegetables to get to our marketplace?
I'm thinking, okay, is the soil rich in minerals?
Exactly. And did
Okay.
they let it grow to full ripeness?
No.
And yet, this is why we want to supplement. We have to supplement. Because at the same time, just like you mentioned, there's a lot of, and by no means am I picking on the farmer, because heaven knows we need all of
Sure.
our farmers,
Yes.
right? But what I want to do is I want to take the delivery system. Oftentimes we think of a tablet, which is hard to break down, hard to assimilate, hard to take, right? That type of, we always find an excuse as to why we want something better. But what I want to do is I want to just take really quickly a tablet, and I want to put that tablet into this cold water, okay? Cold water. I'm going to drop that in there, and then we're going to get back to that. I'm going to fill that back up with just a little bit of water, make sure it covers that. For those at home, I didn't put enough in. But here's what I want to do. I'm going to take just a little simple bottle, and I brought the smallest bottle that we offer. It's so convenient. You can carry it in your pocket, you can put it in your purse, you can put it in your backpack, you can put diaper bag. But watch this. If I just take one drop, in fact, can I do this? Will you give me one drop right there in that
Sure.
cup?
Is that okay? Oh, the light came on.
That was one drop, right? Maybe
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
But anything brighter than that on that plate with just that one drop?
No, it
No.
wasn't.
And yet at the same time, that's the power of these trace minerals. We think of macro minerals. Those are the ones that we're most familiar with, which is magnesium, calcium, potassium, sodium,
Right.
which are all vital, right, to our health.
Right?
But very few of us remember the importance of the trace minerals. And just because they're in minute amounts, they're still as critical as all the rest of our minerals. And yet, oftentimes they're even, in this case, it's the trace minerals that help activate, regulate, and assimilate our other nutrients so that we get better use from them. Everybody always assumes that that multivitamin that we're taking has everything that we need.
Right.
I assure you that it doesn't. That's what I would be reading. And by the way, that's why I love to encourage our listeners, our viewers, to go to the health food store. Go to the health food store. There's amazing knowledge there. It's absolutely free to you, by the way.
True.
You can go in there, ask them questions, do your homework, and find out that oftentimes these trace minerals are neglected, even in our multivitamins. By the way, let me go back to that tablet.
Wow.
So that's in cold water. Can you imagine that in your hydrochloric acid, right? So whether it be in a liquid form or a tablet form, or a capsule form or a powdered form, it all has that same power back to our health.
All right, now let me ask you a question
Yep.
then with what you're talking about. A light bulb doesn't go off in my head and tell me that my body doesn't have all the minerals that it needs. So how do I know
Great
that I
point.
don't have the minerals?
Fantastic. I share this thought only because the greatest physician for our well-being is ourselves. We're the ones looking in the mirror. We know when we're just a little off for the day, whether that be emotionally, mentally, or physically. Who's telling who has the problem when you sit in front of your physician? We share with them, and you know what we call that today? It's called a practice.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
We're practicing still. But Deborah, if I ask you today how you feel, you're going to tell me, well, I feel fantastic, or I feel a little off. It could be so the question that I have back to you is that this, when an engine light goes off on the dashboard of your car, what do?
Check it out.
We check it out. We usually take it to the
Garage or dealership.
and we have it checked. When we have an engine light that goes off inside of us and only we know about it, what do we typically do? Women are different than men, by the way. Women go have it checked.
Men don't.
Men, we sit on it. We think,
I've done too
I'm tough,
much.
I'll get better, But here's the one thing that I always share with that thought is that we are so unique and so different from one another, but there are so many variables here because it could be the very water that we drink, the very foods of choice. I think it's a crime against our intelligence today, by the way, what we consider food within our society.
Okay.
Can I share that again?
Yeah.
I think it's a crime against our intelligence as a society is what we consider food within our society. When we send our children to school with some of these breakfast items, and I hate a Pop-Tart,
Yeah.
and consider it a good breakfast start, I think we have to go back to the educational, what we're doing for our health of ourselves and our children.
You mentioned that, and of course it deviates somewhat from this. But I hear parents today talk about their children not wanting to eat school lunches. Well,
Right.
when I was growing up, school lunches provided a balanced meal
Right.
for us. But today, so many parents send their child to school with what their taste buds
Correct.
want to eat, which could be a Pop-Tart. And that might be all that they eat for
And
breakfast
remember,
or lunch.
some of these sweeteners, some of these chemicals are very addictive.
Right.
They're there for a purpose. it's not-
Sucrose, aspartame.
We crave some of these foods and chips and things that
Yes.
are typically not natural. Wouldn't it be great if we were, we would become addictive to fruits and vegetables? Be a whole different, it'd be a whole different world, right? When it comes to our health. But remember this too. I love that we're drinking more water as a society. Yet when I ask the question about water, we don't oftentimes stop and think about how that delivery should be. Meaning, I don't think for a second we were designed to live on bottled, filtered, distilled RO water.
Right.
We were designed to live on groundwater, spring water, creek water, river water, right?
But
Have you been to your local river or creek lately? And did you have a desire to dip a
Contaminated.
cup? Oh, we don't trust the water's coming out of our tap because we don't trust it in some city centers. We don't trust, right? But we choose the water that we trust, and typically it's not only filtered
yeah.
and contaminant free, but it's also element free. So can I share that thought with
Interesting.
you?
Okay.
So remember what pH stands for?
I should know.
Potential hydrogen.
Okay.
Now,
All right.
this is not, there's no, one of the things I love to do is simplify.
Please do.
So, when we see this, we think, oh, a pool test kit or a sauna test kit.
So there's water.
This is just basic water coming from the
Okay.
tap. And what I love to do is I love to define. Now, we think about alkalinity versus acidity, right?
Okay.
I'm gonna explain it this way. We can live 2 to 3 weeks without food, 2 to 3 days without water, and 2 to 3 minutes without oxygen. When did you stop to think, when do we ever talk about oxygen? We talked a lot about it the last few years when we
Masks,
can't
breathing
breathe,
masks,
right? But think about this for a minute.
Now,
I'm
what
gonna
are you putting in
This is
there?
called phenol red, which is the organic acid that tests for pH balance, okay?
Okay.
So it's color coded. So what I did is I took some of your water right here from your tap And as you can see, it's alkaline. So let me explain. So the more alkaline we become, the more oxygen enriched we are. And that's our protection.
Okay.
But the more acidic we become, the more oxygen deprived we become, and that's where we find ourselves with some health challenges, okay? Now, what I love to do is I love to take, for instance, water should be our #1 supplement because 90% of our blood, lymphatic fluid, amniotic is water. Saliva, water. How about 85% of our brain, 75% of our tissue, and 30% of our skeletal? So what should be our #1 supplement daily? Water. But if you ask the general public what their favorite drink is, the last thing, it's not water. Yet, what I like to do is I like to take I believe.
Oh, the label's been removed, okay. But you can tell it's a carbonated drink.
Yes.
All
and what
right.
I like to do is I like to put just a couple of drops. I'm going to ask the question, Deborah. Do you think a pop soda drinker would that be satisfying to their taste buds, just those 2 drops?
No, probably
No.
not.
Did you see what just happened?
Color changed.
We went from alkaline to complete acidity. I think that soda in general is one of the most acidic liquids that we willingly dump into our
Wow.
bodies on a daily basis, okay? And by the way, do you know how many cups of water it takes to neutralize, just to neutralize 120-ounce soda in our
No.
bodies?
How much?
32 cups.
And we don't drink 32 cups in a day.
Most pop drinkers don't drink 32 cups of water in a month.
Right.
But they drink 4 or 5 of those a day, and then they wonder why they feel the way they do. Because, of course, in this case, one of the things that we need to remember is that hydration. Do you realize, with a lot of the health challenges that we're facing today is because we're completely dehydrated. Not only are we demineralized because of our soils, but we're also demineralized because of our water choices. So what we love to do is we love to show you how by putting those minerals back in, so I put in 2 drops, I'm going to counterbalance it with 2 drops. Guess what? I can buffer that right back to an alkaline pH. Now remember, this is not a true depiction of your blood.
Okay.
Because if your blood changes 1/100%, we're dead. It's called homeostasis, right?
Okay.
So there's a lot of variables here. Now, here's what I want you to understand is that the most acidic liquid in the human body is found in the gut. And the older we get, the less our bodies produce that hydrochloric acid. You know that concept, we are what we eat? It's not what we're eating, it's what's available and what we're able to absorb. We are what we absorb. So with these minerals, because they're ionic, and the definition of an ion is an atom or a group of atoms that carry a positive and negative charge and dissociate easily in solution. So in other words, they don't have to go through a digestive process. We can put it right into our waters or our soups or our teas or our protein shakes, our smoothies, whatever you enjoy. And at the same time, we can put that balance, not only from an oxygen standpoint, but we can also, of course, put it in from a conductivity standpoint and bring that health back to us.
All right, so how do I know that my body is lacking in minerals, or what kind of symptoms would I experience?
How do I start? So
I know one should be probably fatigue.
fatigue, mental, brain fog, energy levels. I mean, what I love to share is this. Throughout my schooling, I loved my education, loved the knowledge. But you know who the greatest educators are to me? The end consumer. You that are willing, that take the product and come back and say, are you sure there's no drugs in this product? And that's a sad statement, Deborah, because we assume that in our society, anything that comes with good feeling, lack of pain, or well-being must be a drug because that's the way we're being educated. That's not the way we're designed, right? We're designed to overcome, adapt, and balance, and yet when I hear these individuals say, I was told that I would have to live with or cope with, and then after a few months no longer have, that's the greatest education that, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that each individual has a unique set of challenges that we hope that by putting that balance back in and paying attention to our well-being, that we can see the results that we're looking for.
And you mentioned seeing, and so I'm thinking to myself, a lack of minerals, it could be, you could have vision problems. What about your hair?
Hair, absolutely.
Hair?
Yeah.
What about mouth ulcers?
Hey, let me tell you what, this is the greatest, this is like the oral, I think that what goes on within the mouth, remember, this is the fastest healing tissue in the human body.
But, you can bite the side of your jaw, your lip.
Amazing to, now, the worst case side effect of taking too much of this, by the way, is a laxative response.
Laxative,
Laxative.
okay. Some people need that too.
Exactly. I think everyone in society needs a good trace mineral bowel flush.
Right.
I think we'd think clearer. I think we'd be healthier. I think we'd be kinder to one another. But at the same time, when it comes to that oral, I love to rinse my mouth, especially when you have an irritation. And it's amazing how we can dissipate, we can help that process speed up just by putting those minerals back in. Yet at the same time, it's difficult at times when we start talking symptoms because, again, it's so broad.
Right.
But when it comes to stress or anxiety, I think that just flushes our balance from within. I think it's one of the most overlooked, undiagnosed health conditions that rob us of these minerals every day.
All right, so my question is, if you have problems, and maybe you have other
Health
problems, health problems, will this affect it? Will this affect any of the medication that you're taking?
Great point. So, with as a society, especially in America, we probably take more medications than any other nation, and so I would challenge anybody that, again, I don't know of any physician that's going to tell you to quit eating your raw fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, or grains, or legumes, or that piece of protein. So I would just separate it out from your medication, follow that same direction from your physician, but make sure that you're putting that in at meal times. That's where it should have been in the first place.
So this product here can be added to your water?
Water, soups, teas, protein shakes, anything that you enjoy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
anything
it doesn't
that you
have to
enjoy.
be water?
No, absolutely not. The concept, an apple a day that kept the doctor away? How many people do you know? Deborah, are you an apple eater?
I do like apples.
Do you take a bite and go, oh, that's disgusting, but I know it's healthy for me, but I'm going to keep eating?
Depends on the type of apple.
Okay, true. But typically, we're going to set that apple, whether you like it crisp or softer, but we eat it right to the core because
Yeah,
we
we do.
enjoy it. Well, this should be no different. We should be able to ingest this. We should be able to give it to our most finicky individual, whether that be our partner or our child or our aging parent, and they should never know it's there. That's the perfect way to take it. Dilute it and take it throughout the day. So remember, we breathe all day long. We perspire all day long. We should be, defecating multiple times and urinating. So there's a constant, steady output. That's why, in this case, there needs to be a constant, steady input to keep that balance so that we can keep ourselves healthy.
So for me, to simplify it, these mineral drops help to replenish any minerals that we are losing.
Correct.
And I'm thinking, okay, as we get older, we start to lose minerals all
Correct.
the time. So this would help balance out our minerals in our body,
The trace minerals.
trace minerals.
Now, here's what I want you to know.
Okay.
Think about this. When we hear the anemia, what do? We take more
more
iron.
more
Okay,
iron.
we go right to the, we go and but you show me in nature, Deborah, where you can eat a fruit, a seed, a nut, a grain, or a piece of protein that just has one element in it. Doesn't exist. But we load our bodies up with that one element, and typically with iron, it's going to constipate us to the point where we can't breathe and we can't. But by adding this to those supplements, don't change anything you're already doing. If you're taking a multivitamin or you're taking your fatty acids or enzymes, this helps put that foundation in, but at the same time gives you that full spectrum and balance to help that iron or that calcium or that magnesium that you're taking for your bones. So in other words, again, can I say it this way? This is the cure to nothing. But it is involved in every aspect of your existence. There's not a cell,
The
a
body
tissue.
has to have minerals.
Has to have it.
Yeah.
Has to
Okay.
have it. So it's involved in every aspect of your existence, from the cells, your tissues, there's nothing that this isn't involved with. So in other words, by putting it back in, we become, and this is where, again, I believe that we're divinely designed to be Lamborghinis Bugattis, Ferraris, but we treat ourselves like push mowers most of the time.
Okay.
And yet at the same time, we keep pushing day in and day out,
Yeah.
month in and month out. And guess what? Sometimes we get sick and tired of
Yeah.
being sick and tired. So when we go back, again, I can't break the human body down any more basic than that right there. That's what we have.
Electrolytes?
That electrolyte or that conductivity
Okay.
that stimulates those cells and get them to where they need to be. And yet at the same time, who's in control?
You are.
If you're not taking care of Deborah, who is? Sometimes it gets lonely,
It does.
right?
Yeah.
Especially when we have those challenges with our loved ones or, aging parents that we worry and stew about. But at the same time, this is such a wonderful way of putting that foundation back in, because you and I both know if we lived in that perfect world with that nutritious, rich, balanced soil and that water coming from that,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. There'd be no need.
We talk about that in the soil today, and I read a good article here a while back about minerals being depleted from our soil,
Yep.
even here in the United States.
Absolutely.
And so we need to put it back into our body. But the great thing I see here is this can go in your pocketbook, it can go in your pocket, your backpack, anywhere that you go.
Everywhere, and of course beyond your person all day long.
Yeah, but you also have tablets.
We have tablets, we have powders, we have capsules, we have electrolytes all across the board. We have delivery systems that will meet your personal needs, and yet at the same time, come and visit Nature's Outlet. They have amazing variety, at the same time, amazing staff with great knowledge to help us, direct us, guide us, in some cases, to what might be best for us.
And you mentioned Nature's Outlet, and I was in there not too long ago, and the staff is very knowledgeable.
They are.
It's not like if you go to a big box store and you're hunting for something that you need, and you
Correct.
can't find someone to even tell you what shelf it's on, but yet you can go in there and say, look, I've got this problem. What do you have that might be able to help me? And then if you're looking at a product, they'll tell you all about that product
Absolutely.
because of the knowledge that they have. And that's what's good, because we might think we know everything, but we don't know it all. But yet you talk to the experts,
Yes.
the people that know a little bit
Yep.
more about things than you do,
Yep.
and it makes a world of difference.
Oftentimes we have to have reminders, especially when life gets crazy, when a health challenge hits us close to
Yeah.
home, and we start taking care of their needs along with our needs, and we start, that's where they're a calming voice, an educating voice, because that's what they're there for, to educate. You get to be the ultimate one making the decisions, but take that information, do your homework, find out if it's right for you, and then pose those questions, and they'll have a variety of different options that you can choose from. And yet in the end, I love stating it this way. This is like building a house still, right? It really doesn't matter what we construct the house of health with or what we decorate our house of health with if our foundations are crumbling to begin with. We got to go back to the foundation. And to me, this trace mineral product in conjunction with the water that we should be, that's like the concrete. It's the patchwork that we need to put back into our health. And when we do that, our house of health glows in ways
You
that
feel better,
we
much
feel
better.
Absolutely.
And as we get older, of course, reality tells us that our body isn't what it used to be.
Correct.
And we really need to start concentrating
Correct.
on feeling better,
Right.
or trying to do what we can do in order to put the minerals back into our body that we're losing.
You're right. Now let me I'll finalize it with one
Okay.
last visual aid. This is called a TDS mirror, total dissolved solids. You asked a question earlier. How do I know? How do I know they're going to be usable? How do I know that my body needs them?
Yeah.
How is it available, right? Which is a great question. We need to know that. So what we do is we take this little device. You'll see this
You
in your
bring water in there
you'll
again.
see this in your college laboratories but with this, it has a little meter
See
that
that.
shows, okay, now when I push this button, that there's about 150 parts per million of something in that drinking water. To a purist, they are not going to drink that. They won't drink it. Because unless you have an analytical analysis as to what that's in that drinking water, they're not going to touch it. So Distilled or RO water will register 0 on this little scale.
Okay.
So we're going to use it completely opposite of what this is designed to do, because if these minerals are completely dissolvable and usable, what should happen to our meter when we put it in?
Well, it should go up.
Will you put that in for me? Give me a couple of drops.
How many drops? Couple of drops.
Yep, just a couple of drops. Okay. Now what I would love for you to do, if you would, I'm going to go ahead and let you push the button to begin
This
with.
one? This one or this
Yep,
one?
no, this one, the bottom one. Just hold it in.
Oh, wow. It's
What'd it
going up
do?
to 900.
And it will continue to take that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I do this, and I just wanted to share this, you go ahead and push that, and I'll put in one more.
Oh, it went off the chart.
Completely off the chart. So let me show you this from this. So it takes it completely off the charts, meaning these minerals do not have to go through a digestive process, which is important because with all the digestive disorders that we have in our society today, oh my goodness, we could write a book on it, right?
Wow.
I think it's a pandemic that we don't talk about. But remember, your gut and your brain are completely one. If this is not absorbing, this is not conducting. If this is not conducting, guess what? We're not functioning. So these minerals do not have to go through a digestive process. They're ready for your body to utilize, and it literally starts with, people ask the question, how much do I start with?
Right.
If you have a sensitive system,
Uh-huh.
I'd start with 5 drops a day. Very simple, okay? Because here we sit on May 22nd. Deborah.
Uh-huh.
How many New Year's resolutions do you think are still being lived by the American public? Right?
Probably none.
We're not consistent.
No.
We're not consistent because if we try to change our diet too fast, we run into a healing crisis and we go back to the way we felt before because it didn't make us feel that way. So the reason why I bring that up is consistency is everything. Just like eating the food that we should be eating and hydrating our bodies, the same should be said about that proper balance going in on a daily basis. We have to be consistent, and if we're consistent, I love to state it this way. You like symphony music?
Yeah.
If I remove the conductor from out in front of the symphony, what do you have? Noise,
Nothing.
chaos,
Yeah.
confusion, right?
Uh-huh.
Your mother would not have looked.
Right.
Yet, if we put that conductor back in front of that symphony, which I believe the greatest symphony ever to be orchestrated or assembled is within
The
us.
body. Mm-hmm.
And it's trillions of masterful musicians being those human cells, right? If we can conduct them on a daily basis and communicate, and if you're paying close attention, it should take your breath away.
Wow.
Our own health.
You know, I didn't, and I'll wrap it up by saying this. I never realized, sure, I'm concerned about my health,
Sure.
but I never realized that the minerals that I'm losing, I can't replenish them like I used to.
There's
And-
only one nutrient that your body is designed to manufacture. One. Vitamin D. Tells us a little about how important that one element, that one vitamin is. But the rest of them, you have to put them back in.
Minerals. All right. So we can pick this up at Nature's Outlet.
Yep. Now this comes in 3 different sizes,
Okay.
a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, and an 8 ounce. The ones that are most available is the 2 and the 4. They're very convenient. And ultimately, one of my greatest passions, Deborah, is to teach those low-income households, typically those single parents that can't afford an organic diet,
Right.
but can't not afford to put this back into themselves and their growing children for pennies on the dollar. Pennies on the dollar. When you really break it down, what's the cost of health, by the way?
There is no cost for
There's
health.
not. Can't buy it back,
Can't buy
right?
it. Mm-mm.
But we can support it, we can sustain it. But if we can put a value to this, I would say it's invaluable
Mhm.
from a foundational standpoint.
I would agree. I tell you what, this scientific experiment that you showed today opened my eyes. That light bulb went off
Light bulb.
by watching you and seeing how this product works. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
My pleasure.
It enlightened me, and of course, if anybody has any questions, they can go by Nature's Outlet,
Absolutely.
and the staff there is very knowledgeable. They'll tell them anything that they need to know about this product, I'm sure.
And if they don't have the knowledge, they'll find it.
They'll
for
find
you.
it out.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So one of the key things that I love to say is that the whole premise of this company is to remineralize the world. And if that's one individual and one drop at a time, so be it. And if today is that one individual be you, it's been a successful, educational opportunity.
That's exactly right. And we're never too old to learn.
Exactly.
Never too old to learn. Thank you so much for coming by today. I've enjoyed it, enjoyed the experiment, and you showing me, because sometimes seeing is believing. You could tell me, but I saw it for myself. So thank you so much
You are so
for coming
welcome.
by.
Thank you.
All right. Stay with us. More Star News programming coming up next.